Correct. In this episode, imagine the phone in your hands. It's 2035, 10 years from now. The phone in your hand, you look at it, and the label behind it is made in Africa. Imagine that. That is the goal of Africa Union. The label made in Africa. For products that we use today, everyday products that we typically would import, that are powered by continent-wide green grids or green energy, zero delay border crossings, and a plug and play factory cities, mega factories or mega cities with a cluster of factories in them. That is the plan. So stick around to see how Made in Africa 2035 master plan will flip the script on global manufacturing and its impact on the continent of Africa. Awesome. So what Made in Africa 2035 actually means, as I said, is the goal of Africa Union that by 2035, the bulk of goods that we typically would import, the bulk of goods moving inside and outside of Africa would carry the label Made in Africa. Why? Because energy, logistics, and factory ecosystems have finally clicked together. At least that is the goal. And we would want to explore it in a deeper sense so that investors and market, if you want to enter into Africa, so that you'll be able to figure out which areas you could actually plug in to take advantage of this massive goal, this massive vision that is just 10 years down the road. Okay. Without much ado, I have a report that I created for you. If you're an investor, a business, a multinational, even a private investor, that has to do with cultural intelligence in Africa. One of the major things that international investors or the mistakes they make is cultural blunders. They get the business strategy, everything right, but cultural blunders can cause serious business losses in Africa because Africa is very diverse. What works in one part may not necessarily work in another part. And typically what works in Europe or North America would not work in Africa in terms of the cultural nuances. But that's why we made that report. So it's a regional cluster of reports, groups Africa into 5 regions with similar cultural traits. If you want that report, it's free. You can grab it using the QR code on the screen or the link in the description. So let's jump right into our content. Okay, so I said there are 3 mutually reinforcing pillars that will shape this mega goal. 3 pillars, and I'm going to go through each one of them. So the first one is a continent-wide power grid. A continent-wide power grid that delivers, I would say, scalable and reliable low-carbon electricity at Asian level tariffs. The reason why Asia is such a powerhouse in manufacturing, one of the major reasons is that their tariffs in terms of power production or electricity usage or electricity costs are way lower, way lower than Africa, than currently is in Africa. So the level that will sustain that massive level of global manufacturing would be to bring the cost of energy or the utility cost down for manufacturing plants. That's number one. Number 2 is going to be, and we are going to go a little bit deeper into any one of these points that I'm going to highlight. So the second point is going to be seamless border crossing or seamless border logistics or border crossing, so that a gearbox that was manufactured in, say, Kenya, or a cotton shed that was manufactured in Benin can reach Lagos or Accra, not in weeks, but in days, basically. Then the final pillar is going to be the creation of smart industrial parks, which are typically called SEZs, right? SEZs, where manufacturers plug straight into ready-made green infrastructure. So these are the 3 big pillars, and let's jump deep into it. So let's start with pillar number 1, that is continental power grid. What it is. So basically, the concept is this: when power grids interconnect, surplus hydropower from, say, Ethiopia or a DR Congo can flow to fast industrial zones in, say, Kenya or Nigeria or Ghana, slashing power generation costs. So some countries are endowed, they have natural abilities. So there are bigger river bodies in around Congo and Ethiopia because of these. Like, I think Ethiopia, there's the Nile River that flows all the way from Egypt down to Ethiopia. So they can have bigger hydro dams that will create excess power that would be way above their local consumption in terms of their needs. So it will be great for them to be able to export that power to other countries that need it. So other regions, so like the Sahel region that are endowed with a lot of sunshine, they could produce a lot of green solar power. And that solar power gets the excess gets sold to other countries. So that's the play, right? So an African electricity trade is projected to be the largest electricity market in the world by population size. It's going to be like a marketplace of trading electricity, and that would make it the largest in the world in terms of the number of lives it impacts. So let's look at it this way. Why this matters? This matters because Africa needs at least 900 terawatts hour. That's huge. No, is it? No, it's tetrawatts or whatever the name is. It's giant gap. More. So you need 900 tetrawatts hour more on-grid electricity to hit universal access by 2035. So basically, if Africa was to provide universal access to electricity, that's the number. That's a giant big hole that it needs to fill. 900 tetra hours, which is crazy. I don't even know what that tetra means, but it's massive. And currently, this is where the plan stands. So, African Union has a program called the African Union Continental Power Systems Master Plan, which basically is what I just described. So, it's called CMP, African Union's Continental Power Systems Master Plan. A lot of big English, but in short, they call it CMP. The goal is to create a massive intercontinental Africa when it comes to power generation and power distribution. And then they also have another program that's for the distribution side. They call it the Africa Single Electricity Market. They call it AFSEM, Africa Single Electricity Market. And the concept for AFSEM or AFSEM is Africa's plan to turn 55 power systems into one giant marketplace by the year 2040. So what it means is that all 55 countries are going to be trading power amongst themselves on one platform or a marketplace that is supposed to kickstart by the year 2040. What's going to happen is that basically solar from the Sahel, as I talked about, and hydro from the Congo, because of all the river bodies they have in the Congo basin, and gas from Mozambique, because they have a lot of access to natural gas, can flow wherever they are cheapest and most needed. And that is the power base. So he said that if this roadmap that Africa Union has put together stays on track, wholesale prices could fall by a full third. And renewable energy could dominate the mix. Some estimate put it that the percentage of renewables under this program is going to be somewhere within the range of 65%, which would help big industries and will finally, that means that they will get reliable, but most importantly, renewable energy at a cheaper cost. That would help the factories to be able to run 24-hour cycles and things like that, like the Asian manufacturers too. So let's look at the second pillar. The second pillar is cross-border logistics. This is the idea. Let's fix our roads, railways, ports, and border stations. So moving goods feels like driving on one huge highway, frictionless. So what does it mean? So think of construction of new highways. Imagine a highway that cuts through, say, Abidjan to Lagos coastal road, because they are all on one coastal front. So Abidjan to Lagos dual carriageway running across multiple countries. So running across Ghana from Abidjan to Accra to Cotonou from Lome, Cotonou to Lagos in Nigeria, all across the coastal belt. Super fast highway. That would be phenomenal. What about having a rail network connecting these countries or interconnecting countries together to ensure the fast movement of goods across country, right? That would cause, say, a truck to roll from Ivory Coast or Cote d'Ivoire to Nigeria in a day instead of a week. The second point under this is that think of digital customs as well. One of the major hurdles is custom checkpoints because almost everything is paperwork. So The plan is to digitize custom forms across countries so that border crossings or border stops are going to be matter of going to transform or transition from hours and hours and hours to literally minutes, because you can complete the form before the truck even sets off. So that by the time you get to the checkpoint, that information is available to that country's customs officials already. And it expedites the customs processes at each border to make movement of goods faster. And without ports, highways, and digital customs, after Africa Continental Free Trade Agreement that touches 1.4 billion consumer markets will stay theoretical, pure and simple. What and one of the things that are, for instance, the World Bank modeling recently shows that intra-African exports could jump by a whooping 109% by 2035 if transport costs and non-tariff barriers disappear. Just imagine that. Intra-African exports, that's trading within Africa, will increase by more than double if just these roadblocks are removed. And the result is that if a t-shirt is made in Benin, it can reach stores in Lagos quickly and cheaply, right? And companies can sell more, creating more jobs and what have you. So let's look at the third pillar. So the third pillar is this. Before we do that, if you haven't downloaded the African Cultural Intelligence Report, we call it the African Advantage, you can do so now. Basically, it's within the description of this, the description section of this video, or you can find it as a QR code on the screen. Basically, if you want to understand and avoid making cultural blunders as you enter into Africa, you need to. If you're already operating in Africa and you want to expand into other areas, you need to understand the different cultural nuances. The culture in West Africa is different from the culture in East Africa, and different from Central Africa, different from North, and then the southern part of Africa. They're all different. But this report gives you that insight, and it's free. You don't have to pay anything. It's free. You can download that. All right. So let's jump to pillar number 3. Pillar number 3 is smart industrial parks, or SEZs, as they are normally called. So think of it, parks, these industrial parks are plug and play factories. So companies can sign a lease on Monday and roll out equipment by Friday. So they don't have to start everything from scratch. Now build the warehouse, build the plant area, build the workshop. All that they could do is basically plug and play, right? So these are called smart industrial parks. And these parks are typically run on renewable energy. So green energy, giant solar powered plants, giant biogas power generation plants, and what have you, right? And they already have like waste disposal system, pumping systems, everything in place. And what happens is that like next generation manufacturing is basically going to rely on these kinds of concepts. There's a company called Arise IIP. That's a leader in this area. So for investors looking to play in this area, you can look at the model that Arise IIP uses. So for instance, they are very strong in I think Gabon and Benin. They have created these massive industrial parks in those two countries, and they are killing it. And they actually even expanding to other African countries because the model works, where they create these giant industrial parks, put all their infrastructure in place, and lease it out to manufacturers. So the park generates electricity, water treatment, and then even provides port access, because most of the time their location is closer to logistics hubs. That will make that when products are manufactured, they are, logistically speaking, those places provide easy access to ports and places that can be transported for export outside the country. And it's seen that for manufacturers who uses these kind of facilities, they save up to 40% on capital expenditure. Accountants and business called capex. So they save up to 40% on capex cost. There's another example down in Lekki Free Zone in Nigeria that hosts close to about 200 firms with on-site power, gas power, and whatever it is that powers that industrial area. This kind of area is what Africa needs. to blow up our manufacturing ecosystem. So, how does these three pillars come together? Basically, these three pillars reinforce each other. So, think of them as power, production, and then shipment in a closed loop, right? So, the continental grids feed the industrial parks with 24/7 clean power. Then, these parks or these industrial parks in turn houses a cluster of manufacturers, right? Or suppliers, because manufacturers, they produce goods to supply. So the houses a cluster of manufacturers who fill up logistics corridors with high value goods. Okay. Then number three, custom light corridors. That is frictionless border crossings because of digital customs forms, custom light corridors, and the Africa Continental Free Trade Area ecosystem or agreement. Their rules help unlock scale for manufacturing in Africa, driving up electricity demand, which is going to that is why the interplay of this marketplace of electricity or exporting or sharing electricity across borders is going to be ultra key. Going to be ultra key. So basically, this is going to be like a loop where cheap power fuels factory fills up trucks and trains, and busy trade routes attract even more investment to upgrade their electricity grid. That is masterful. And why does this matter? Because there's going to be resulting more jobs for a whole plethora of people, like from engineers to truck drivers or administrators, accountants. Going to be more jobs everywhere. There are going to be cheaper goods. That's going to lead to less reliance on imports from other parts of the world, like Asia and the rest. Basically, it will help cut down imports. And then the growth is going to be cleaner because we are sharing renewable energy that cuts pollution. So it's like a win-win for all. So if these three plans stay on track, as I say, in Africa, sometimes things don't stay on track. But I'm very hopeful, I'm very optimistic. If these stay on track, the next label on your phone, maybe your iPhone, maybe, or your Nike sneaker may be made in Africa. And don't be surprised when that happens. And if you're an investor, I want to be able to see where you can plug yourself into this and benefit from the coming revolution. All right. If you still haven't downloaded the report, do so. It's free. You can download the African Advantage report, which shows cultural intelligence or for African regional clusters that would help you avoid making unnecessary mistakes, cultural mistakes, as you enter into Africa. All right, peace. Thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.